Hi, Jared McCoy again. I'm a dealer from Alta Seeds. I hope you enjoyed my video on grazing winter stockpile feed. I wanted to make this video to try to address some of the frequently asked questions that I get when explaining this winter stockpile feed concept, but basically I just don't have trouble with this. It works really well. I remember coming home the first time I tried it and I told my wife I just felt silly that I had not figured this out sooner. So don't waste another year putting this off. Try it now. But remember that it does not carry over to the next year like bales. You be sure to plan on having enough acres per cow that you can get over it and utilize it all. And some say, well, why would I plant this when I can raise soybeans or some other cash crop? It's really not meant to compete with cash crops, although when prices are low, it does compete. It's meant to compete with mechanically harvested feed, and it wins every time. There's really no contest. But for this to pay out, and it pays out well, it must be replacing harvested feed like bales or silage. And there's a lot of flexibility in this system. This works well for small or large operations. If you got 50 cows and maybe you work a job off of the farm, you can set up your paddocks on the weekend and feed cows really quickly. If you have 500 cows and you need to start mass managing tasks, this allows you to feed many cows quickly, cuts chore time. Set up fence in good weather and sit in the pickup during bad weather. It doesn't take but 2 minutes to give them a new paddock. And here's some of the frequently asked questions that I've got. A lot of people ask, well, what do you do when it snows? Snow really doesn't affect this. There's way too much volume of forage. It got 12 feet tall. It'll about half break over in the winter. There's just too much there for the snow to affect it. The cows can easily find it. What is the quality of the forage when left in the field? It's excellent. It retains quality just fine. I took a feed sample in 2020 on February the 27th. It was 9.6% crude protein and 73 relative feed value. It's hard to find cane hay that good for sale. What do you do when it gets wet? Well, I rarely have this problem. I've only had to pull them off once due to wet weather. They walk up on that residue which holds them up, and I always set a back fence so if there's wet weather, the problem is isolated to one paddock. But try to be over your stockpile feed by April 1st to avoid this. However, I have ran on stockpile feed from February 7th to May 7th successfully. How do you move fence and how much time does it take? Well, I like to run off with a four-wheeler. I have a rack welded up to hold my posts and reels. It didn't cost much and it works great. It takes about 30 minutes to set up a new fence line and pick up the old back fence. You're just replacing time that you would have been running the tractor or doing whatever to feed processed feed. How do you get through that tall forage? Well, I drive over it with the four-wheeler to knock it down where I want my fence line. You can do that with a tractor if you want, but generally, I don't see how applying any machinery to this system will improve it. Is it hard to move cows? No, not at all. They train quickly. In less than 3 moves, I've had 60 to 70 cows go into a paddock in under 2 minutes. It really makes the cows easier to handle. How big do I make the paddocks? Well, you can manage them however you want. A good rule to start with is 25 cows per acre. I used a handheld GPS when I first started to help me to know how big the paddocks were and how many I was putting in. Just judge according to what you want. Watch the residue that they're leaving. And when you make your first paddock, you know how many cows you got, you know how many acres they're on. You can figure up how long that field is going to last. With your first paddock, you'll know what you have ahead of you. How do you water them? Well, I have piped some water, but there's above ground options too. But look at the money you save. Try this on 50 acres, save $5,000. That will pipe a lot of water. And that's a capital improvement for you to use every year. Swathing and baling costs recur every year. So you got yourself set up to feed processed hay. You can get set up to graze feed too. What crops work well behind stockpile feed? For a cash crop, I like soybeans. With all that ground cover, soybeans work good. Forage crop, I like oats. Get to utilize the quick release fertilizer from the manure and urine. Do you add any other plant species for diversity? No, I don't. And I'm not against diversity. I use it with cool season crops. My best experience is to use a little weed control and fertilizer to grow the biggest yield of highly digestible crop by utilizing this PPS trait. If you get 100 cow days per acre, this pays out really well. Thanks for listening. I hope that addresses a lot of the frequently asked questions that I get with grazing winter stockpile feed. Thank you.